Welcome to Film in 5D, the show about everything film and video with the Sony a7S II. I'm your host, Aaron Hammock, and I've got a quick episode today giving you what I consider to be the optimal settings for videos on YouTube. So first off, I made an episode about this over 4 years ago, and to be honest, not too much has changed since then when it comes to upload settings to YouTube. But obviously they've added things like 4K support, different frame rates like 60p, and also the higher bit rates. Back when I did an episode about encode settings, there was a cap on how many megabytes per second YouTube could handle when it came to your video upload. Back then I stressed that uploading a large, high quality file might not only be a waste of time, but it could also wind up causing YouTube to compress your video so much that you ended up with an even lower quality video than you would have just gotten it, you just uploaded at the maximum settings at the time. Well, the situation today is still the same, with just one exception of having a higher cap on that bit rate. YouTube recommends that you upload different resolutions at different bit rates. For instance, they have their recommendations on their site, as you can see right here. Note that the bit rates on the right are for the higher frame rate videos, and the ones on the left are for the more standard frame rates. For the purposes of this video, I'll be showing you my settings at 1080p at 29.97 FPS, which is what I now upload every episode of Film in 5D at. So let's just start from the top down. I use the H.264 format, which is the best compression size to time ratio for YouTube. Quick note here though, H.265 is gaining native support on many new cameras, and many people say that H.265 is the same quality at about half the file size / bit rate, which is pretty cool. Another codec some professionals use is VP9. Though I don't personally use it just because it requires a plugin for Premiere Pro, and in my experience at least, it takes a little bit longer to encode. So I just go with H.264 for now until H.265 becomes available. Next, you're going to want to make sure that your multiplexer is set to MP4. This will ensure that your file loads quickly as possible when someone presses play on YouTube. And then you can move on over to the video tab, where to me the most important thing to check off is square pixels. And you should see that 1:1 ratio. This will prevent your video from becoming distorted or skewed or anything like that. Next, make sure you have your video resolution set to your desired output, but it should either be the same size as your project file or maybe even a little bit smaller. Some of the common resolutions are 1280 by 720, which is just HD, 1920 by 1080, which is full HD, and 3840 by 2160, which is Ultra HD, otherwise known as 4K. I should also note that if you're planning on exporting at a lower resolution than you edit in, you run the risk of not only a slightly longer encode time, but also your video could end up looking worse than it should due to the process of encoding a video file to a lower resolution. Thus, I always recommend both editing and exporting your file the way you want it in the final version. Next is your frame rate, and this one should just match your original file. Also, be sure to set your profile to high and your level to 4.2. though that last bit can vary depending on your resolution. Then the last thing you want to set is your target and maximum bit rates. I showed you the list of recommended bit rates earlier, but for me, I do variable bit rate, 2 pass at a target of 8 and a max of 12, which is pretty standard. I should note that clicking the maximum render quality option will only considerably slow render time and only really helps when scaling footage like I mentioned earlier. The 1 pass versus 2 pass is arguable, and I honestly only do 2 pass because I have a beast of a computer, and you could probably just get away with 1 pass if your videos are just for YouTube. The VBR is key though. This is going to give you the best quality to size ratio, especially for videos like mine, where you can see here I have a pretty static background, so frame to frame my shot's not changing too much, and VBR will allow me to have the higher bit rate when I need it, like when I'm moving around, and then keep the bit rate lower when I don't, like the static background not moving at all. Then moving on over to the audio tab, you definitely want to go with the ACC format. And then for the codec, you can either go with ACC at 48,000 Hertz stereo, and then you can also go with ACC Plus version 1 or 2 if you want to get up to 96,000 Hertz, I think it is. This is of course just going to depend on the actual quality that you recorded the audio at initially. Then set your audio quality to high and your bit rate to somewhere above 192 kilobytes per second. This is the bit rate where I personally feel most people won't be able to tell a difference on YouTube. If you go to 160 kilobytes per second or lower, you can definitely hear a distinct difference in my opinion. And that's pretty much all the settings I use for my video uploads. Hopefully that helped, and I know that for some of you this might be pretty basic stuff and there's tons of presets out there as well, but hopefully I added some additional insights on video encoding for you YouTubers out there. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and send any questions via @mentions on twitter.com @filmin5d. I'll see you next week with my review of the Movi camera for streaming. Thanks for watching, and if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button on screen for weekly content on all things film and video. If you'd like to learn more about my video encode settings, read my blog on my new website, filmin5d.com. Also check out my video on my 6 tips for YouTube optimization. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.